Okay. Edit. Okay. All right. We are live. This is Aaron Littles, aka the Captain. And what I want to do is provide a lot more tactical business content. So you're going to hear, I've got modules that I'm going to make, and we're going to go for 10, 15, 20 minutes. I don't know how long. I'm going to be able to freestyle, not be rushed. And you guys watch, subscribe, like, comment, interact, engage, ask questions in real time about the topic matter at hand or future topics. But I want to get more content out there. I want to add value. Today, we're going to do the first lesson. We're going to do the first topic, and it's going to be something that's near and dear to my heart, which is startup. And those entrepreneurs or people that are looking to start their own business don't know where to start. So we're going to go through a lot of different modules and teachings on what it takes to kind of go from that zero to the first $1 million in sales. And I think these are generally applicable principles. I've started companies in different industries. If my event planning business, my staffing business, my logistics business, all these different businesses that have generated revenue. And my brother and I, Eric, always joke and say, okay, did we make $1? And then how do we repeat that process? So I want to go through and show you some of the things that I think can help you run your business. I've got all this cool tech now. I've been working all day to try and get this going. So comment, engage, ask questions, and then I want to make sure that we're adding value for you. I'm going to switch now so you can kind of watch and see on the screen, and we're going to whiteboard some of this stuff so that we can help you as you want to grow your business. And I'm going to try and make sure it's not too complicated. But here we go. So, and I want to make sure you can see me and see the whiteboard. That's better. That's bigger. That's better. We'll go with this. Okay, so 0 to million. A lot of times people get just wrapped up and say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a company. I might start a company in 2 years or 5 years or whenever the stars align and everything's right. I'm always the fan of like, let's violently execute. But before you can violently execute, let's make the business plan. And I'm a big fan of the one pager, right? Make a plan. This is where people get so tripped up, where when you're on the flag football field or in the neighborhood sandlot and you can draw the football play in the dirt. That's what I want sometimes, because we get so wrapped up in saying, well, where's the playbook and what are the audibles and what about the rain, the weather, and the temperature? It's like, okay, got it. But let's just drop the play and execute that play violently. So if we do those things, let's take some of the noise out, some of the complication out, and that's where we can see, hey, here's how we can actually move the needle and generate revenue. So this is going to be very, very heavy push. Some back office, you have to have some of the legal stuff set up, some of the back office set up, but can we generate revenue? And I'll give you a couple of different stories as we talk through this. I'm different startups where I've actually pre-sold before I've even had the legal entity set up. But I'll give you some of those tips. So one-page business plan. What is your sales plan? How are you going to generate revenue? What is the business model that makes money? You can have some marketing. And this can be just as simple as networking, right? Social media. It can be events and conferences. And so you can go down and get really, really complicated with all this stuff. I would say what resonates with your business and what resonates with you, you've got to find those things. Sales is saying, okay, we're going to, sell units, or we're going to, contract with different companies. So I'm in the staffing business for most of my things. It's like, well, we've got a contract with nursing homes, hospitals, ALFs, different treatment centers, and whatever the case may be. So you've got to say, okay, I've got to go find agreements with those clients. And what am I selling? Am I selling per diem? Am I selling temp to perm? Am I selling full-time placements? So all these things are options that you can sell in your business, but you've got to figure out what are you going to sell, and then pricing and all that stuff makes itself known. And what I mean by, this one-page business plan, you're gonna have some operations. Who fills the orders? Who answers the phone? Who checks the emails? Right? And then, of course, setup. Do you need to have, I've done so many little small startup ideas. What I've done is I've created one, and I've got this from Richard Branson. I'm not the smartest guy, but it's like, okay, I've created the Streamline Group as my one entity, and then I do all these little sub ventures under the Streamline Group so that I don't have to keep going and making new EINs. I can just say, hey, I'm going to do a new DBA because I'm trying a new idea, and then I can go make it a bank account, and then I can have that as a subsidiary of my main idea. So I've got Streamline Group, and then logistics and consulting and staffing and ventures and all these other things. And then it's quicker to just do a quick DBA and be able to rock and roll. Then now ChatGPT, all this stuff is accessible to us. Like, oh my goodness, I'm going to make an app this weekend. I have to do it. I have to find more time. But there's so many tools now with AI to be able to help you create apps or create documents or create even some basic things just to get started, just to see, is there a temperature of what I'm even going to sell? And this is where the personal network, I think, helps you validate to say, okay, hey guys, I wrote my business plan. This is what I'm thinking about doing. Do you know anyone that might want to buy this service, right? Or buy this product? And can you soft market it? And it's one of those things where not every business becomes a $1 billion company. I had this realization yesterday. I've been in rooms where we were talking about selling a company for $1 billion, and it wasn't like it wasn't a pipe dream. So some of these things can happen, but most businesses stay under $5 million in sales. Okay, well, I would take 2 of those today, so it's okay to have a business that, grows organically and hits 5 million in sales, and you've got a 15% profit margin, and life's pretty good. And you're working, the hours you want to work and not burning yourself out. So I think those are some things that you got to think about. Of course, with all this stuff, this is going to be a big one page, but you get it too, where over time you want to have the vision, mission, goals also. But I'm okay having some of these items off to the side, because I think it's good to know, but sometimes it's too early. Sometimes before you've gotten your first customer, before you've actually figured out what does my product or market fit look like, you may not have all those answers. And I think that as you start developing and start doing some things and making calls and figure things out, I think that's where some of those become a lot more clear to you. And I'm a big fan of these. So everyone who knows me laughs, but these are my pennies. You got to have your 100 pennies. If you're not making 100 phone calls to figure out all these things on a daily basis, then this won't grow. You don't need to have a mission and vision because you know how many sales. So you can't be afraid of getting your hands dirty and figuring out, how do I get my first customer? How do I do all these things? Call some people. Call. Hey, I'm selling these units. Do you guys want to buy some? You can listen to Zig Ziglar tapes. I've done all that stuff, and I'm not saying don't do that, but don't not start while you're waiting to make sure you've got 1,000 things in place. You've got to kind of fall forward with this stuff. If you don't, then it'll be a good idea, and give me another month, and give me another month, and give me another quarter, and then I had a baby, and then all of those things happen. I was looking at an old agreement that I signed, and it was signed on July 15th, 2017. And I'm smiling because that's one of my daughter's birthdays. And I remember I was holding this little baby in the ergo, and it had little baby insert, but I inked a deal that day. And that's the joke, is that whenever I need to take a day off or whatever, we ink a deal. And so Juliet had a birthday, and my wife's like, Aaron, can you just, I'm almost done. Let me just ink it, send it back with, and this is before we had all the DocuSigns, right? So ink it, and then be able to email it back. Okay, now I'm done. 6 minutes. So the joke is that we want to go sign agreements. We want to get customers. We want to figure out, do you have something to sell? If I don't make money, and this is me personally, if with my effort, my connections, my knowledge base, all those other things, if I don't make any money between 90 and 120 days, this is probably not a good fit. That's just my own personal timeline. You might give yourself 6 months, maybe even a year. But the way my brain is wired, if I've not found a way to get all this stuff done and start talking to customers and make the plane land on the moon and get my very first sale in a year, then it's the wrong deal for me personally. So that's where I usually move a lot faster. Say, okay, how do I get an MVP? Let me go erase the board here. And a lot of these concepts actually are going to be in the book that I did write. It's done. I just got to work on. I've got to do my edits. Then Madeline's going to help me out. She's going to edit too, and then I think it'll be out maybe the beginning of Q4. That's the goal, and that's an aggressive goal as usual. But it's this whole concept of skateboard, bicycle, Toyota, Tesla, SpaceX. So the question is, what do you need to do to get the skateboard moving? So how do we get just some kind of movement? So how do we go faster than a walk? Is a skateboard. That's the analogy. So it's saying, hey, I need to generate my first customer. I need to get one customer. How do I get one customer? What do I need to do to just get one customer moving and get a sale? And if we can figure that part out, then it's like, okay, now I got one. What do I need to clean up, keep moving, and going forward, get on a bicycle? Because I used to bike when I grew up in Sanford, Florida. And so I had a part-time job at Publix. And at the time, I didn't have a car. I didn't have a car until my junior year of college at the academy. And so I had to bicycle to Publix. And I bicycled home from track practice and all these other things. And so you can bike about 5 or 10 miles an hour or whatever, maybe 10, 12 miles an hour. And so, but in Florida, it rains. So I remember having to ride my bicycle to work and getting rained on. It's okay because I was able to earn money. So you take those lumps. But I love the bicycle analogy, saying, okay, I'm going to skateboard 2 miles an hour, bicycle 10 or 12 miles an hour. Toyota, my very first car was a Toyota Camry. I love that Camry. It was great. It needed an O2 sensor or something like that. I didn't do the repair. I should have done it, but at the time the car cost the same as the repair, so I didn't do it. I'd have that Camry today. I'd be driving it as like a backup car, but I'd still have that Camry. It was a great car. Tesla, you guys know I love my Teslas, and that's super fast. It's super clean and super slick. Now we're moving, and then the last one is the SpaceX. That's a rocket ship. So this is a progression, and this takes most companies 15 or 20 years, right, to be at this level where you're, oh my goodness, this is 100 million plus. This is like $100 million of revenue plus, and you can kind of insert revenue milestones here if you want to. But I think this is still a good worthy goal. Even if you have a beautiful Toyota, again, that's steady Eddie. That's doing a couple $1 million in sales, and as an owner, you're making a few $100,000. You're providing jobs. You're able to donate to the local community outreach and volunteer to the children's club and all these other things. So those are great goals to have, and it's not just the financial for yourself, but it's also how can you impact the community. So I'm just going to double check to make sure to see if we have any comments here in the chat. I don't see anything coming in just yet. Let me double check my other screen. Show comments on stage. Okay. And if you can comment, just so I know if anyone's out there looking or watching, great. If not, no big deal. This is going to be posted on YouTube and on LinkedIn and Facebook. And then I want to be doing these videos periodically. So we're going to get more content out here. But get a skateboard, get moving. This is the part where people trip up and they think, I've got to go right from idea all the way to Tesla. And that's the biggest problem that a lot of people have, where they get caught in that analysis paralysis. I wish I had a little bit more of that. Every good idea, the way I learn, the way my brain works is like, let's go buy a company or let's go start a company, and then I'll figure it out along the way. Not always bad, not always good either, but those lessons you learn when you lose money or you make money, especially when you lose money, you get burned into your thoughts and say, I will never do that again, or I will never do that again, or that worked out really well. How do I make sure I add that to my business acquisition SOP or my business growth SOP on how do I systemically grow my businesses? So those are some of the things that you have to think about. But again, don't get stuck here and saying, I've got a great idea, but then I never move from idea to skateboard. That's easy. Just do this. Just to say, hey, can I get a prototype? Now we've got 3D printing. We've got prototyping apps. We've got apps that can make you a prototype app or make you your own app. So no matter what you're trying to do now, you can really get into this skateboard piece with some effort and block your time and say, okay, let's allocate 100 hours to figuring out how do I go from 0 to 1, and take this down. If a million sounds scary, a lot of people would love 100 grand. So if I'm a solopreneur and I can generate $100,000 of revenue and sales, and my expenses are my computer and some time and flyers and a deck of business cards and t-shirts and swag or whatever little things, well, guess what? 85% of that type of business is profit. So to make 85 grand on the side can be impactful and change people's lives, and then just do it again the next year and stay flat. Or you say, okay, I want to scale a little bit. How do I put systems and process and procedures in place to do it? Now, this is if you have maybe little money or low money. And I personally would say I do it this way myself, because if I can't sell it myself and get the skateboard moving, then I don't know if I want anyone else's money. I don't know if I want investors and all those other things, because I'm not confident that if I can't sell it, how is anyone else going to sell what I'm thinking is a good idea? So those are some things that start the process off and get you running, because this is the hard part. This is such a hard part that you don't worry about $100 million or 10 million or 5 million or 2 million if you can't get your first sale and be able to say, oh, let's get our first sale and let's get the skateboard moving. Because if you have a skateboard moving, then typically you can say, okay, what does it take to get to the bicycle level? Do I need to just get 2 more customers, 5 more customers, 10 more customers, and now I'm a bicycle? Oh, okay, well, who can you call? Who do you know? One of my financial advisors, she's so good at referrals. She says, hey, Aaron, I know you love me, but I have to ask. I need 3 names. So before I can get out, hey, she needs 3 names. And sure enough, it's like, she's got all these littles on her on her roster now, because, hey, she does great work for me, but that referral engine matters. And I think that it depends on your business. You can have super slick tech businesses, and this might not be the tech business model. We can get to that if anyone wants to go down that path. But I still believe that at some point, you've got to be selling. At some point, selling equals money. Right? If we're not selling, if no one's selling something, that business will not be around long. You can get investors to throw money at it maybe for a while, and it's a good idea, and it sounds cool to be I'm gonna start up. But if you're not selling anything and you're not making any money, at some point you will not have funding, and then that'll be another coulda, shoulda, woulda idea. So having sales, having a good business model can become profitable is the better route. Now, there's a couple of examples that people just keep throwing money at from an investment perspective, and that they're out there, and that's Uber, right? So Uber, okay, finally got profitable after so many years, But the point being is that that's such a unicorn and outlier. Don't make your business plan based on an outlier. Make your business plan based on tried and true proven systems and process, and that's the best way to go, in my humble opinion, on how to truly be able to be successful in this, where you can say, okay, I've done it at this level and we made money. Then we reinvested and we made more money. And so what I'm notorious for always having a side hustle or two side hustles or whatever it takes to say, hey, let me just see if I can get this started, right? Let me just see if I can get this started. I am looking now at buying more businesses. So there's a book on my desk here, Buy Then Build. And that's not a bad idea too. If you have business experience and you have a little bit of capital, or you can get capital, and if you want to do that route, to say, okay, I see a Toyota or a bike, or maybe there's a Nissan Altima somewhere in the middle there, and say I can help that become a Model 3, then that's a route to go as well. I think it's just knowing what are your goals, what are you trying to accomplish for yourself personally, professionally, how much do you want to work? Those are such important questions to soul search and ask before you even do any of this stuff. Because otherwise you won't be motivated to wake up at 5 a.m. to go work on a business plan or work on emails. One of my first businesses that I really had some success with was my event planning business. And at the time, Matt and I had about $115,000 in debt, and we were on the Dave Ramsey program. And so I said, okay, I'm working banker hours. I was working at the bank, and I was able to start an event planning business that was nights and weekends. So I could still honor my commitment to the bank during working hours. But then it was like, oh, well, now I can actually make money on the side. And the joke was that the brides, I did a couple weddings actually, pretty decent sized weddings, and the brides loved the discipline. They loved the, those napkins. Yes, we want those. Was it Chevalier chairs or whatever the chairs were, and they wanted all these things, and I was very decisive, and so they appreciated that. Not me. I'm not one to like kind of be wishy washy, and so I called some mother-in-laws out. I called brides out. I was like, hey, you're being a bridezilla. We need this. Let's make decisions. Let's go. And some people that resonated very well. So I was like the Marine Corps wedding planner. So anyway. But that whole point was that business made money nights and weekends, and I made, I don't know, 50 grand a year for a couple of years. And I should have sold that business. I closed it because I didn't know any better. And I still randomly get phone calls where people say, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of Event Resource Solutions. And I'm like, oh gosh, I closed that business, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And so anyway, there's so many ways to make money on the side. See if it's something. The reason why I closed it and didn't sell it, well, one, I didn't know any better, but two, nights and weekends were hard. We were in that season of starting to have children, and so I didn't want to be away nights and weekends. And so I said, oh, I don't need this money anymore. We paid off the debt. We became debt free. Did the Dave Ramsey screen in Nashville, which I love Nashville, and that was the course had run it. I had run its course for that business, so I didn't need it anymore. And I just closed it because I opened it, did what I needed to do, then I closed it. And okay, hindsight being 2020, could I have sold it? Could I have done some other things? Could I have put the structure in place to then potentially scale it? Maybe, yeah, maybe. Looking back now, there's businesses that I didn't buy that I could have bought and resurrected. So again, it just matters about how much capital do you have? How much headspace do you have? What are your personal goals? What are your objectives? Not everyone wants to work an extra 20 hours a week. If you don't want to work an extra 20 hours a week, then you got to go ask all your friends and family for 100 grand so you can take a year to really pursue something. But I get more comfortable taking money when I've done the first 3 steps. And whenever I don't do the first 3 steps is when, ironically, things don't really go well. And so if I can't get my very first sale, well, shoot. I'm not the best salesperson in the world, but it's like, okay, if I can make 100 calls for months and months and months and get 0 customers, and it's not really me, it's like, well, this offer is not good enough, or something about this industry is not working. So that's my point, is just being mindful of those first things to kind of get your foot off the ground, get your feet off the ground, find mentors, read books, growth. but those should already be happening. So it's like before you even start this whole journey, you should be in a process of personal and professional development with what do you read. I was not planning on going through all the books that I have on my desk right now, but this is a government contracting book that I'm working through. I read this book 3 times cover to cover, how to be a fantastic guide for my consulting clients. That's a personal book. This is another marriage book. I'm working on a little marriage thing right now to help people. I need it for myself to make sure my marriage stays strong. But here's Buy Then Build. Love that book. And then this is another great one. You just have to have this stuff. I went to the Naval Academy and know of some of the guys that just are in these stories. And one of the authors was he was like 2 years ahead of me, Leif Babin, and it's a great book to encapsulate a lot of the military thought process and how we think. You don't have to go join the Marines or the SEALs to be a good business person, but it's one of those things that the thought process matters. Oh, and then this last book I just read, I really enjoyed this. It was a good quick read, Traction, for the EOS Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's a great system. I like it a lot. I think having read that, I'm going to make my own system at some point because we all need systems. And a lot of my systems are ingrained, but you need to have a system. So if you're just starting out, buy that book or go to the library and check it out and read it. And then you do the things that the book says to have a system for how you're going to run your business. I don't know if EOS is the greatest for skateboard. You need it maybe at Toyota or in that Toyota to Tesla transition. So I think skateboard's a lot scrappier, and that's my my area of expertise, and I enjoy it. But wow, a lot here. I want to make sure we double back on a couple things and double click. Get started. Figure out how to make $1. If you figure out how to make $1, then we got to figure out how to repeat that process to get another $1. And as we do those things, we can refine and grow along the way. Do not get into the trap of saying, I've got to be perfect day one and not start. Because some people, if you have to think about the idea for more than a quarter, okay, fine, 2 quarters. I'm calling a spade, guys. Have an idea, research it for a month, 2 months. Okay, fine, 3 months. Okay, fine, 4 months, research it. But then at some point you got to pull the trigger. This is where the Marine in me, I can't separate it. So the joke is, you got to pull the trigger. Well, in my M4, I had like 25 rounds. So I'm gonna sight in, I'm gonna pull the trigger, and it's like, oh, okay, I was a little off to the right. You got to check your data, see where you're shooting, see where you're aiming. Do I have a cluster off to the right? How do I move to the left? Let me check my windage. Let me check my adjustments, check my breathing, check my equipment. Like, okay, am I not flexible enough? What's wrong? But we can still take more than one shot. That's the joke there, is you can always take more than one shot. Don't go bankrupt on any of these deals. Don't say I'm going to go all in on a skateboard. That's where I think you can have an all-in mentality, but don't have to go bankrupt. I think you can say, hey, I'm going to shoot my shot and see what we can do here and try and generate revenue. But all my deals now, I'm capping myself at saying, hey, I'll explore every deal, but I can't spend more than like 10 grand in exploration. And that's just a number. And it's a kind of random number, but it's kind of because I've done a lot of exploration. And if I can't get, some level of comfort around sales and marketing and the industry and the market saying, oh, we can get something moving here, then I'm not going to spend too much energy on it. That's me personally. You got to have your own criteria. And I'm going to encapsulate a lot of these thoughts into another guide or something like that, just to add more resources. But you've got to be able to say, hey, what can I afford? How do I learn? I go to the library. You can go to the library. You can listen to podcasts. You can find mentors. You can find content and engage and ask questions. One of my mentors, David Fields, he posts a free webinar every Monday. And it's like, if you have a question, just pop on there and ask him. It's like, oh, hey, David, I'm trying to figure this out for a client. Oh, Aaron, thanks for following us and engaging. Here's the answer. Oh, wow. That would cost thousands of dollars in a one-on-one coaching session, but it's free now with social media, and that's just a benefit that he's giving out. My point being is that there's so much information out there now that you have to go and find the information that you need and allocate time. The one thing I'll say too, going back to some of this stuff, is for this 0 to a million. And I think this is where I do it kind of just by habit and by experience, but you have to be disciplined with time. And so my calendar just it looks busy. I'm not busy, but it's like it's planned for. So that's all it is like, well, I pre-planned. And so I have my routine set up to where I have my wake up, my worship time, my devotion time, my workout time, and then I've already planned out my work day work, family time to do even morning devotions in there too. But all that's planned out. So it's like, well, I'm planned. I'm not overly busy. I just had planned. Here's a sales block. I'm going to make 27 sales calls during that block, or that's the goal, and all those other pieces. So being disciplined with your time, setting goals, and these are like business goals mostly, but to say, hey, I'm going to make 25 sales calls a day. And I'm saying 25 because I'm assuming you're already working, you have a job, and you're trying to just pay the bills still. But this can always be more, right? And you got to figure out, who do you want to talk to? Who is the right audience for this? So that's very important to make those high quality. So if you can increase the quality of those calls, then whatever your closing ratio is your closing ratio. And then it's like, hey, if we got to be making money. So when are we going to have our first contract? One, and I don't know what it is for you, if it's a unit or widget or a staffing agreement or some kind of agreement, one per week or two per week. And then how long does it take to get there? And then how much energy can you throw towards that end goal? So I'm just going to double check to see if we have any comments coming in through all these chats. I've got like 8 windows just to double check to make sure. Okay, no comments at the moment. That's okay. But having goals, setting goals, I'm a fan, and I'll write this out for you. But and with this first part, you're going to reach forecast after 2 months. So don't spend a month making goals, but have an annual goal. Have quarterly goals. Maybe 3. Monthly. 3. I wrote this down the other day. I really like the idea. It's like each week and then each day. So now, if you think about this, each day, if I have 3 quick goals, I want to make 25 sales calls, I want to do a LinkedIn post, and I want to set 1 networking call. But if I do that every day for the whole week, boom, then I've now increased my success likelihood for more business, networking, connections. And so now at the end of the week, it's like, well, I want to land 1 new agreement and 1 new client, or pick whatever the 3 goals are that moves the needle for your business. And these things must be tied to revenue. There's too much noise in this space. Ordering swag is not a goal for the week. Now, I can be convinced if you're going to say, oh, I need to wear that swag on my shows and my videos, my LinkedIn, and that's going to help drive revenue. Okay, fine. You get one swag goal per month, right? But don't make that hey, we need the swag. We got to just get towards revenue producing goals. And then at the end of the month, hey, we build, $5,000, $10,000, or whatever our revenue goal is. Let's get that as a goal. And then let's hold ourselves accountable by saying we're going to commit 10 hours a week. That's like the floor for a lot of ideas. If you can't find 10 hours a week in your schedule, then it's going to be very difficult to move the needle. It's just very difficult for any particular project. You can break it down. You can say, okay, I'll do an hour a day, Monday through Friday, and that might work. but you got to be so consistent that what I have found with a lot of my projects is I might do an hour in the morning and then another hour at night or after hours on a side project. So if you like I'm different right now because I'm in this consulting world where I have a lot more flexibility and I can just kind of pop on and pop off and just do my thing. But if you have a full-time 9-to-5 job, you still have to find 3 hours Saturday morning. One of the guys I follow on LinkedIn, he's really good about this, Maurice Philogene, and he's a worker. He works a lot, but he's very detailed with his time and saying, hey, wake up at 4 a.m. I'm a 5 a.m. person, not a 4 a.m. person. Someone was like, hey, Aaron, you want to meet for coffee? And they sent an email saying, I'm free in 20 minutes. And I saw it the next day. It was like, that was at 3:40 in the morning. I was like, oh, geez. So you're a 3:30 person meeting people at 4 a.m. I'm like, okay, I'm a 5 a.m. person. I'll meet you at 6. But you get the idea is that you got to make a decision somewhere to say, this is so important that I'm going to talk to my spouse, I'm going to talk to my kids and say, hey guys, for the good of our family, I'm going to allocate 10 hours a week to get something moving. Oh, okay, cool. Can we help? How can we support you? People do this for a marathon. You can't just the next day run a marathon. You have to say, okay, I'm going to start a marathon training program, and I'll use triathlon because I'm getting back into it. I'm very close. But it's like, I'm going to start a triathlon training program and I'm going to allocate 10 hours a week of training. And then that's going to culminate in some kind of triathlon event. Oh, okay. How can we help? How can we support? And so you might be able to find that you can get your spouse and your kids on board. And so they understand where you're taking them, as opposed to saying, oh, I can't do babysitting duty or daddy duty because I've got to go train for 2 hours. Excuse me, what are you talking about? So it's a communication issue. That's why business and marriage overlap so much. So that's why I'm writing my little guidebook, because you have to talk about some of those things before you get too involved in starting another company or buying another company. And trust me, I'm speaking from experience. So I'll leave it there. I'll stop. Okay. I want to give value. I want to add value. I hope we've touched on a lot of different things. The key being, get started, be disciplined, have goals. Don't be afraid of jumping on the skateboard. Get on the skateboard and get moving. If you need help, message, comment, interact. I'm accessible, and I want to add value. So if you're not getting what you need from me, please ask questions, please engage. And then again, we got more content coming tomorrow. This went for, oh, wow, okay, over half an hour. So hopefully it helps. I can receive feedback if saying, Aaron, you ramble too much and all the stories are lame. Okay, fine, unfollow me. But if you see value or saying, hey, can you talk more about technology and AI? Sure. I know it's out there, but before you even get to the AI stuff, you got to get the skateboard moving. That's why I spent so much time on this today. We got more content coming for you coming up. I've got talks about dashboards, weekly cadences, more on goals, the org chart. What else do I have on this list? Scale or sell, acquiring companies. So I touched on a little bit of the surface on some of those topics today. And again, I didn't get my MBA. And I was laboring over this years ago to saying, oh, should I go get an MBA or should I not get an MBA? And this is when I was at Gale. And I was in my 30s. I was a young guy, and I could, only had one kid at the time, I think, or Madeline was pregnant. I said, wow, should I take some time to get my MBA and learn business? And that's a fantastic route if you can do it and swing it, and that's you. I'm not so much a book person in the sense of a school setting, a classroom setting. I thrive in practical application. I thrive in the real world experience of it all. And so when we were at Gale, we took that company from 1.5 million in sales to over 400 million in about a 5-year period. And that's an outlier. That doesn't happen often. But if you can imagine, that was I call it a practical business MBA. Contracts, hiring, firing, leading. I was employee like 13. And at the time when I was COO, we had over 500 employees. And so being able to lead at that level in corporate, and there was a pandemic layered on top of it, it was this perfect pressure cooker where we did buy companies, we did sell companies, we started divisions, we closed divisions. And then all my personal business, I've had a freight brokerage, I've had a staffing company, I've had multiple staffing companies, and I bought some, I've sold some. And so I've done a lot of different things, and that's where I'm just trying to share some of these lessons learned and pass it back to you. I should have started the video with some of this stuff so you can know the resume, but there it is now, and I want to add value. I want to help people. So if this helped you, please engage. If it doesn't help you, unfollow me and then tell someone else who wants to do this stuff to follow me, because I'm going to be giving a lot away of free content. If you need more, then you can always email Aaron, Aaron, at GoStreamLD.com. And then we can jump on calls and do a deeper dive on your individual business or practice or whatever you're doing. I hope this helps. I'm going to figure out how to stop this and switch it, and the volume may get messed up. But thanks for taking a look at this. You can watch it at 2x. I know I talk kind of fast, so it's already at 1.5, but hopefully that helps and more to come. Okay. All right, so that was session 1, 40 minutes. I hope you got your money's worth. I'm going to end the stream now, and I'm going to check to make sure this all worked perfectly on YouTube and everywhere else. But good times. All right.